Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Wherever you are in the world today, I hope that you are doing great. Hope that all is pleasant for you. And most importantly, my friends, I hope that you are in good health. Once again, welcome to the Common Sense channel. On this channel, my friends, we get to talk about those things that people know, that people have thought about, but don't often have the time to discuss. These, my friends, are the things we discuss here on the Common Sense channel. So, once again, welcome to the Common Sense channel. Today, we're going to be talking about democracy, capitalism, and freedom of speech. But I think freedom of speech should be called freedom of opinion. And I think the reason why it should be called freedom of opinion is because of social media. And if you go on social media today, now in 2026, you would notice immediately how many opinions that are on that platform or on these platforms. People with different opinions, different views on things that are relevant to their own life or things that they feel are relevant to society or things that they want to talk about that are essential to their communities, to their environment, to their countries, to they're not just basic things that they feel that people need to know based on their own opinion. So I think instead of calling it freedom of speech, it should be called freedom of opinion. Because freedom of opinion is the same as freedom of speech, except it's a little bit broader. There are many peoples out here today with various opinions on anything. So I think, so that's what we're going to be focusing on. But I want to talk a little bit about democracy and then capitalism too, and then segue into freedom of speech, because these two systems has a lot to do with freedom of opinion. So if I say freedom of speech, basically I'm saying freedom of opinion. But freedom of opinion has a lot to do with our time, which is 2026, with the mass introduction of social media. So when you hear me say freedom of opinion, it's the same as freedom of speech. So yeah, I was thinking, because I believe that all change, big or small, begins with thinking. And not only thinking, but asking relevant questions. These are the two things that you need to change your own life first, because no change can be done or no change can be happen without you changing your life first. So people must see your own life change, and then it's easier for you to change others. And like Jesus said, it shouldn't be done by you saying it. Yeshua HaMashiach said, you shouldn't boast of that. People should see it in you. How? Because of your action, and I say this, that when people see it, it's because the people that sees the changes that are occurring in your life, they probably know you. And that's grassroots. You understand? And the reason why it's grassroots is because those people that know you or knew you and knew you of your past, when they are looking at the noun person, they can almost distinguishly tell the old you and the new you. And this, my friend, is the transformation that I speak of all the time when I say the discovery of anyone, the beginning of the to discover yourself is the beginning of your transformation. Once you discover yourself, the rest is easy to accomplish. No one would have to tell you anything because you've already found yourself. So yeah, I was thinking that in the United States, which is where I live. I mean, you can equate this to wherever you live in the world, but we were told, we were programmed, we were being informed to believe that we live in a democracy. I talk about this. I've always talked about democracy, and the reason I always say this, I don't believe it exists. I think it's a facade. But in the case of the United States, America is not a democracy, and this is true. There's no way democracy can exist in capitalism. America is a capitalistic society. Maybe a constitutional republic make more sense. Because why is it? Because the Constitution is the only thing that can regulate capitalism. Because we live in I don't want to even merge the two because it won't make no sense. So one is the law and then one is business. And capitalism is a business model. And whoever is running that business model does not like democracy. Capitalism and democracy cannot operate together because in capitalism, there are few people that are making a decision for the masses. In the so-called democracy, they want to make you believe this, but it's a facade, it's a lie. That you are the one in charge. You know, like I heard Presidente yesterday talk about election rigging. I don't know, for some reason he's concerned about election rigging. But again, we know where he's going. We know what he's talking about. But I think it's this facade, and that's what I talk about because I want people to see that democracy doesn't exist. In this country, some Western countries, yes, but wherever capitalism is, democracy is a facade. And I'm going to show you how. And then we can talk about how freedom of speech is related to that, or freedom of opinion is related to that. I hope that some of you can see what I'm trying to say here. In a capitalistic society, which is ours, the United States, where people have choice, there are variety of things. There are variety of things, material things, consumerism, than even the rights that people think they have. So the reason why democracy doesn't exist in this environment, in a capitalist, I don't have anything against capitalism. I just want to show you what's happening here. In capitalism, few people, they call them oligarchs. They call them industrialists. They call them capitalists. These are few men. Maybe they're less than 0.99%. You understand? Not even 1%. And they controls everything. You may think you are the ones making the rules, you are the one voting, and you're the one choosing. The reason why these people are the ones controlling the system is because they are the ones that are facilitating everything, like the job you go to, the politicians that you vote for, the food you eat, the medication you take, the vacation you take, the car you drive, the road that you drive your car on. They are the one facilitating them. You understand? They are basically the money. Okay, capitalism is money, the sponsorship, the brain behind everything. But you are just there as a Let me say, how do I say it? You just vote. You're just voting for whoever they want, or whoever they have supported, or whoever they have projected to you. You understand? Because at the end of the day, for them, it's all about making more money. You understand? Cranking things up so they can give it to you back. So when you go vote, you're not voting for democracy, even though you think you are. You're voting for capitalism. You are voting for industrialism. That's what you're voting for. You're not voting for um, those things that you think you want, because those things that you think you want, or those things that you want, or those things that you think you must have, capitalism is the one that are producing them for you. You understand? All the choices, the options that you have that are presented to you on any given day or any given time, is capitalism that is producing it for you. Democracy is just a feel-good statement so they can get you off your couch. You know what I mean? Get you off your couch to believe that you are voting for those things, your interest. But your interest is already in the hands of the industrialist and the capitalist. You understand? So the reason why a lot of people are waking up to this concept, and that's when freedom of speech comes in, because they are seeing that democracy is just a sideline instrument used just to make you feel like you're voting for those things that you want. But those things that you think you're voting for, those things are already being given to you by capitalism. That's why even the politician that you appoint or you select, if you want to say it democratically, I'm not going to argue with that. Those politicians, they're always going to work for capitalists, the industrialists. You understand? Because these are the people who are running the very thing, that the very institutions of democracy. Without them, there's no democracy. Without them, there are no choice. You understand? All the things you enjoy. You understand? You want to know how this works? Your education system. The government is not your government, and the one you vote for, they can produce nothing to facilitate education. The healthcare system. The government cannot facilitate healthcare system. No. You know who does? The industrialist, the capitalist are who, my friends? Facilitate all these things. The government only makes laws. That's why most of the laws they make, they're against you. The laws, the legislature, the congressman, they're making those laws are against you one way or the other, but you don't know. But majority of those laws are in the favor, in the interest. I want to say favor, in the interest of the industrialist or the capitalist. You get it? Because why? They are the money, the resource. So you can have a politician comes out to you. I'm doing this because we're in an election time. And I noticed that it's good for people to be educated before they can vote. You understand? Because that way they are making good choices. They are making positive decisions so that they understand that the facade that has been propagated to them. You go to schools, most of these schools, they have to teach these things. Why? Because the industrialists and the capitalists, they are the one facilitating. Okay, take for example, most of your Ivy League universities, majority of their money comes from rich people, industrialists, capitalists, in form of charity, in form of donation. Some of these donations have strings attached to them that has to do with the education system. Whether you know or not, it's the truth. You understand? So they are gonna, in fact, the industrialists are who move in the careers that you go into. They are the ones telling these universities where to put more emphasis on as far as higher education is concerned. They both work together, bro. They're telling how many graduates they need for this specific year, how many graduates they need for this specific sectors of the society. These are things you need to know. Democracy has nothing to do with this whole system. It's just a feel good opinion, a feel good statements, a tool used to gen you up to get off your couch. Now, the politicians and the industrialists and the capitalists, they figure out a way, because now you cannot sway everyone to get off the couch with feel good speeches like those institutions that are comprising of democracy, like freedom of speech, the right to assemble. What was the other one? Shit, I don't like to look up. Sorry. The right to life, liberty. I mean, all these nice things. The right to free press. The right. All these rights. These are feel good speeches. And for some human beings, that's not enough, because there are types of people in our world that are skeptic. There are human beings that are born skeptic. They're skeptical about everything, even the environment. There are people that are keen to the environment from the time they're born. They start exploring the environment. They just focus on environmental issues. There are people that care about medical, sciences, and they focus on that. So if they see anything contrary to what they believe, sciences should be, they talk about these things. You understand? So for these people, sometimes they run for office. Sometimes they try to change things legislatively. Sometimes they just become activists. The activism is just based on throwing light into some of the things that they see that are happening in the sector that they are more concerned about. There are activists that love animals, it doesn't mean they don't love human beings, but their love is specifically for animals. It could be domestic animals, it could be like endangered species, it could be wildlife animals. They just care about these things. And that's what they focus on. Understand? There are activists in our world that just focus on environmental pollution. That's the goal, that's the thing. And there are people, activists out here, that focus on community issues, like roads, better health care, infrastructure. There are these people. So you find all of these people, and what these people are doing is nothing but fighting against industrialism and capitalism. In this country, America is a capitalistic society. Capitalism, my friend, runs everything. Like the Wu-Tang says, cash rule everything around me. Cream. I don't know why I always say queens. Cream, get the money. Dollar bill, y'all. Cash rules everything around me. Cream, get the money. Dollar bill, y'all. See, they're telling you. It's all about capitalism. Capitalism runs the Constitution. It also runs the Republic too. Without capitalism, my friend, without the industrialist, America can easily be like a third world country, because they have the money. The government cannot produce jobs. It's not their job. The government can only regulate capitalism or industrialism, but industrialism has the money to shut them up. If they don't shut them up, because some of these politicians are activists, There are Supreme Court judges too that are activist judges. You know, even though they're Supreme Court judges, but they're activists. That's how they started. Whatever the career, being an activist. There are congressmen and congresswomen that are activists too. They haven't forgotten the early beginning. You understand? So industrialists and capitalism or capitalists, they can, if they can shut them up, they bring them on board because cash rules everything around us. Cream, get the money. Dollar bill, yo. So these people, they'll just bring them on board or shut them up. You understand? It works in third world countries or in underdeveloped countries. They have a way of shutting them up, you know. But in this country, cash rules everything. And some people take it personal, but if you look at it realistically, it shouldn't be. Because at the end of the day, you can't stop it. And money rules the world. And industrialists, capitalists, nothing against them. Because you need them. There are good industrialists out there, and there are those that are not. You understand? There are those industrialists that use their money, their wisdom, their understanding to employ as many people as they can possibly do. And not only that, they use their money for other issues too. The activism in the communities cares about. They put that money into that needs for the communities. And there are those that just use it for other things, you know. So they can use it for a country, their community, their environments, and they can use it on international level too. But when you look at the whole thing, you think the government is just the tool, the instrument in propagating um, whatever system or institution of democracy. If you don't know, most of the institution of democracy are sponsored and facilitated by industrialists, not just education. Even your electoral system is facilitated and sponsored by industrialists and capitalists. The technology they put in there, where do you think it come from? The infrastructure, where do you think it come from? But the government is not going to tell you that. The government does not produce anything. The government only regulates and make laws. Mm? So how do you cannot regulate what you cannot regulate all the time. If you're regulating industrialists and capitalists all the time, guess what? They'll go somewhere else. See, and politicians understand one thing, that they have to produce. They have to produce for their constituents, right? So if there are two hard lines, the constituents are not going to get the things that capitalism produce or industrialists produce. So, in as much as we want to accept freedom of speech, which is good, I say freedom of opinions, you have to know that industrialists, they don't care much about your activism or your freedom of speech or your freedom of opinions. They don't care about that. They don't make decisions based on emotion. They don't make decisions based on feel-good speeches. No, they don't. The bottom line is they make decisions based on money. And they are often afraid of losing their money because they want to keep that thing going on. You wouldn't understand until you get into the shoe. Then you start to understand that once you're at that level, you would do whatever it takes to keep it where it's at. You don't want it to go down because it has to keep producing. I don't know if some of you have heard that money, you can make money. Money, you can make it work for you. You can be asleep and that money is working for you. See, that's how industrialists and capitalists sees it. And I've heard many people say, with all the money he has or she has, and she still wants more, and you wouldn't understand it until you're in their shoe. And then you start to see how, because that money is not just going in their pocket. You understand? That money is going into influences. You understand? It's buying things, not just material things. It's buying respect. It's buying power. It's buying authority. It's buying control. And it's buying influence. You get it? So it's not that all the monies they're getting, they're just gonna go throw it in the bank. No, that money is being worked in various places, in places that you may not even know. So you see your local congressman coming, he's talking blah blah blah. You're sitting there and say, oh yeah, he got my back. No, he's working for the industrialist. He has to, else he's not gonna get paid. You understand? So when they're making laws, you think they're making these laws for you. These laws are sponsored, facilitated, influenced, controlled by the industrialist, by the capitalist. So because of that, my friends, you do not live in a democracy. For that reason, I don't believe the facade called democracy. Not to be condescending or disrespectful or anything, because sometimes these people like to say, some of them now, like to say, this is the European system of government. We invented democracy, which is not true. If you look at democracy, as they want to call it, is an old institution. Every culture on the planet before the beginning or the onset of modern government, right, was practicing democracy. Even the primitive people, men were and women were practicing democracy. They won't do if they were to move the meanders. If they were to move from one place to another, they had to consult each other whether it was okay or not, and then they all agree, and then they move on to the next location, destination. And then when it was time after winter was over, they all agreed to come back. And when they went to farm, they all farmed together and they share whatever they farm. Understand? So yeah, that was democracy is not new. So if any one person argue we are the architect of democracy, they're lying to you. You understand? And even within those communities, there's one or two people in there that were set apart to regulate and make legislation, laws that governs the community. It's not new. All the institutions you see today in democracy, these are old institutions being practiced from generation to generation. So, but to be honest with you, no society. And that's the reason why sometimes when I look and see America like pointing fingers at other country or any Western countries out there saying that their system is great than the other, until you start to see like the cracks, if you can open your eyes and you see that even the system has cracks. And I think the democracy is a projection. So when people like Trump says those other systems are not good, whatever he says about the other system out there, the other whatever form of government out there that he talks of, it's a mere projection of what democracy isn't. You understand? So this is how it's really intelligent and smart the way Western country does it. Even United Nations also know democracy doesn't exist, because the entire United Nations, right, is run by capitalism and industrialism. That's why they would turn their eyes on the other side, and they would see injustice and wouldn't say nothing, except if it suit the narrative, except when the industrialist, for some reason, has a change of mind and say, speak on this. That's why when I talk about populism or pauperism, I want to use my own terms. That's what I was talking about. You understand? Like they just look on the other side. So democracy only work when the industrialist or the capitalist thinks it's time to prioritize that, or think that it works in their favor. It has to work in their favor. When I say them or there, I'm talking about industrialism and capitalism. That's who runs the whole world. Like all this stuff you're seeing, even in Russia, all these systems, communism, socialism, these are all run by capitalism and industrialism. That's it. That's your bottom line. None of these systems exist. All these systems, they're just there to make you believe, to hook you, to the ideology, because they have to have something to tell you. They have to have something to sell to you. They have to have something to get you off your couch and vote. And then make it look like you're voting for yourself. Even though, yes, to some extent you are, but you're only voting to buy the material things. You're only voting to keep them facilitating those institutions that you are enjoying. You understand? That's all you're doing. And once in a while, they make you feel like they're listening to you. But once they get out of those town halls, get out of those once in a blue moon meetings with the constituencies, they go to whatever Congress, whatever parliament, whatever you want to call it. They go to these places. They are in direct talks with the industrialists and the capitalists who actually runs this thing. That's the reality. And I just hope people who believe in the system, nothing is wrong with you believing in the system. There's two people I often talk about that had a strong opinions about free speech in this country, was Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson. If you're out there and you don't understand their legacy, or if you never read about them, I suggest that you do a lot of reading on Thomas Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton, because those are the two influencers of me. When I was in high school, I read a lot about them. And I wanted to understand their thinking. Let me tell you this. You will never find any congressman, maybe Thomas Massey, and what's his name? Both of them are from Kentucky. Rand Paul. A little bit. Rand Paul, a little bit. He been quiet lately, but yeah, I used to see a little bit of that in him. Just constitutionalist. So if you have time over the weekend, for those of you that watch my videos, read about Thomas Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton. And you start to see, and in fact, when you read about them, you will start to see that the democracy that they talk of in this country doesn't exist. We are more capitalistic, and industrialism than any of that democracy. The court system is great because the founding fathers knew that it had to have something tangible to balance the system. I don't think they ever thought that sometime into the future, which they were not able to see, but they were projecting this country to know that maybe we'll have a system called capitalism, the exchange of money for influence, power, greed, control. Maybe they did, but there are few of them that were willing to see into the future. And Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson, where these were founding fathers too, not just ordinary, but they're brilliant. Thomas Jefferson alone, if you look at the constitutions of this country, his penmanship is all over it. Great man, check him out. The only thing I wonder is if he was alive or if he were to come back into this country, what would he think about freedom of speech? Or even Alexander Hamilton. But yeah, freedom of speech is one of those things. And I think I start calling it now freedom of opinion because of social media. Because if you go on social media, all you see most of the times are opinions of people who are surprised. Some of them are surprised. Some of them are shocked. Some of them are confused, you know. Some of them, they never thought that the matrix was real. The matrix is capitalism. America is a capitalistic society run by laws, you know, laws that are constitutionally bound, you understand? But democracy doesn't exist. I'm sorry to say. And that's the truth. On it just take you, if you're paying attention to see it. I saw this when I was in high school in this country, and I used to debate that with friends. But they're like, oh man, shut up, you African. Just like some people that watch my video, they beat them, you African, how are you to tell us country? Europeans are like that. Eurocentric. They just think like they're the only ones that see things. But they don't know that other people can see, especially people like myself that came from a country where totalitarianism was like the main thing. Like you say stuff and you're gone. You know what I mean? Like that's how bad it was. Yeah. So when you come from places like that, it's easier for you to see the same similarity that you saw growing up. You can see it in the system. But those who are in the system in this country, they can't see that because they're in a glass house. But if you who come from, ask anyone to come from a country where it's been total, I don't want to say dictatorship because that's a word they use all the time. Because look, in capitalism, dictatorship is the key. In fact, it's only a few people making the rules. If only a few people making the rules for the masses in industrialism and in capitalism, what is that? So even your freedom of speech, if you don't take time, can turn against you. Yeah. Money can change anything. Money is the medium for power and authority, not the medium of exchange. Could be, but if it's a medium of exchange, that exchange has to be for power and authority, including control. You understand? Most importantly, control. That's the exchange. That's why money is the medium of exchange. But they never tell you what the exchange was or where. You understand? So, yeah, when you look at this system, and I think I've talked about this many times, but I think with time, more and more people will start to see, especially when industrialists or capitalists start to spread AI, there will always be an activists out there that will be speaking out. And they will be speaking out because they believe in the First Amendment, which is the right to freedom of speech or the freedom of opinion. Once they start to do, they'll notice that these people will do whatever it takes, even if it caused them to rewrite the Constitution. I don't think they can do it because Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson these two individuals were very influential in the Constitution. So they make sure to state all these things in there. I think if you reread, you'll see. Go and read Thomas Jefferson's work, because he wrote most of the Constitution. Then this man, read Thomas Jefferson. You see, he was a president. Yeah, read. And you see his writings. They were as clear as day about freedom of speech, or freedom of opinion. I think that's what it should call, freedom of opinion. Opinions. Yeah. But yeah, there can never be a democracy in the presence of capitalism or industrialism. Never. So if you have, wherever you have industrialism and capitalism, democracy doesn't exist. It's the truth. And that's how I saw it. And I know there are a lot of people out there that sees the same thing too. See the same thing that I see. That's the reason why I don't believe democracy exists. It doesn't exist here in America. It doesn't exist anywhere in the country, in this world. But capitalism, industrialism, and all of the isms that are around money, consumerism, materialism, these are all brain elements of capitalism and industrialism. And this is what America is. You understand? All of the institutions of democracy cannot exist without industrialism and capitalism, because they need the money. And those people that give you your money, their money to fund whatever it is that you say you want to do, they have control over the policies, the procedures, and all the things that you do in that institution. Prove me wrong. Understand? So you can be yelling from the mountaintop about activism and all that stuff, wasting your time. That's why you see some of these politicians, they'll take a stand on one thing, and then in less than no time, they switch back. Because it just takes one phone calls from the industrialists or the capitalists that facilitate them to say you better backtrack. And they'll do it. Because they need the money to keep going, to keep doing what they need to do. Now, sometimes they may try to negotiate between themselves and the industrialist and say, hey, man, you got to give something so you can gain this. That's about it. So, yes, I don't want this video to be too long. I just wanted to come and throw a light on it, because I've been doing these videos like this for some time now, just trying to educate people on this. And for some reason now, initially when I started doing my videos, YouTube wasn't flagging them, but I guess they've been able to go through most of my videos now, and they see that I have been consistent with what I'm doing, because that's what I said initially. The moment I started doing this video, I said I will be consistent. I won't be distracted. I won't be talking about things that are not relevant, because this is what they want you to do. Because they can't control you and your camera. They can. And your phone. And I love the phone industrialists produce. I love the phone and capitalism is producing, because they give me good, pictures and everything. Nice background and everything. It makes my video look good too. I appreciate that. But we keep talking on democracy because we know it's a facade. Freedom of speech is not a facade because it's personal. But if you don't take time, it can be taken away from you with your idea of democracy, which doesn't exist. The institution of democracy exists, but it facilitated, sponsored, and provided to you by industrialists and capitalism or capitalists. You understand? So all you can do is just hope that they feel sorry for you, that they don't take away, erode some of your right. Because you see that Supreme Court, you know what it can do? They can vote in judges in there. Capitalists, industrialists. They can vote in justice. They can vote in justices in there. That can roll back most of those things. Or if they don't roll back the Constitution because they can't change it, it's a document that cannot be changed, they can amend them or interpret them. Remember? You know the Dred Scott case? You need to read that too. And you see some of the rulings the Supreme Court did. And decades later, they had to go in and say what the rulings that they passed in the Dred Scott case are separate but equal cases. They had to appeal. It was a stupid decision based on people who were put in there based on their time to misinterpret the Constitution or to interpret the Constitution for what it was. Either way, you understand? So that's the only thing that could happen. You are living in a matrix. And in the matrix, the only thing you can do, the best you can do is open your eyes. Read more. Read good material. Read, if I were you, I would read more of Thomas Jefferson. If you're someone that believes in freedom of speech or freedom of opinion, I say read more of these people's writings. Because these congressmen that are here in our society today, in our world today, in this country, none of them are going to have the kind of legacy that Thomas Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton set while they're on this earth. None. You can't name one that stand. Maybe I see Thomas. Keep going to Thomas Massey, because Thomas Massey is almost like an ancestor incarnate, like because I saw him talking. And when you read Thomas Jefferson and read Alexander Hamilton, you see what I'm talking about. You can see like this man ancestor speaking to him. And I don't think he's going anywhere because he's a young man, and I hope you can have more of people like that are just trying to do the right thing. And you cannot fight against industrialists and capitalists. They're very, very powerful. Because again, cash rules everything around us. Cream, get the money. Dollar bill, y'all. You understand? So that's what it is. I want to say to those people that watch my videos, those people that shares my videos, even though I never say share them, I want to thank you. I want to give you kudos. I know you're smart, even though they flag my videos sometimes, all the time now, but you still watch them. I want to say thanks to you. We're not doing the same thing they want us to do. We're just talking about real stuff. I have more videos on freedom of speech. I have a whole entire video specifically on freedom of speech. Because I see, like, you can see it. Because I'm not living in a matrix. So even though I live here, this is the opposite, because they want like, you're African. We expect you to be talking about love for America. Yes, I love America. I'm the most patriotic person you can ever find out here. You don't even know it. But at the same time, I'm not stupid. Yeah, I see things that you don't see. But those people that question my videos, they also see the things that I see, but they don't want me to talk about it. YouTube. And I see they do it to other people's video too. As soon as you start talking about these things that they don't want you to talk about, they will flag your video. You don't even have to use profanity in there. You just, maybe some key phrases. That's enough to flag your video. And they'll say, that's why they have all these rules. They set up these rules because they know wise one, intelligent people are going to be speaking. And you don't have to be older. You don't have to be famous. You don't have to have a status name, a well-recognized name. You're just looking at flaws and you're calling it out. Because I'm not living in a glass house. I'm living between the glass house, so I can see the people inside and I can see the real world. I can see both sides. So yes, I just want to say thank you to all the people that watch my videos. I hope that you are doing great. As I've always say, the greatest thing that could ever happen to you, my friends, it's not the day you were born, not the day you had your first car, the day you graduated from college, high school, the day you became a mom, dad, lawyer, carpenter, plumber, mason, all that stuff. The greatest thing that could happen to you is the day you discover yourself. Because from that day on, my friends, everything starts to make sense to you, including understanding capitalism, industrialism, democracy, and freedom of speech. These three things connected, and everything has to have someone that opposes it. There's always this conflict that are going on in the human species. One is the part that's influencing society, and there's the other one that are opposing whatever that elements of society is doing. So it's always going to be these two conflicts. So yeah, at the end of the day, capitalism isn't bad, industrialism isn't bad. It's just that in any system there are good people and there are bad people, or people who use their money and power for the wrong thing. You're always going to have that in any system. Even in the illusion called democracy, you're going to have that in there too. So I want to say thank you, and I hope that all is pleasant for you. And most importantly, my friends, I hope that you are in good health. Have a great day. Thank you.